Hi, I'm Leslie Damai. If you're new to the channel, big welcome. And if you're returning, I am so grateful to you as well. Today, we're going to be talking about how extremely important it is to be aware and mindful of people on your grid. I've talked about this somewhat in the past. I've shown examples of people all up in my grid, is what I like to say. NPC'S looping, creating like energetic formations around my space as well. So let's talk about it now. Here we go. The very fabric of our existence has computer code. There are ones and zeros, and which are interpreted as on and off. Okay, we have default settings, error correcting codes, and these codes are exactly what you would find on a Google search engine. So our reality is pretty much a video game. Okay. That's one way to put it. We're living in a replica planet, and we are replicas of our original state as well. So as we continue to navigate this reality as awakened beings, and when I say awakened beings, I don't mean that you are completely enlightened to the highest degree. I don't mean that you're perfect, not at all. I'm simply saying awakened to the fact that our reality is a projection simulation being controlled to keep humanity's consciousness low, hence trapping souls in this projection simulation. And I'm pretty certain that there's like a Richter scale that they prefer our consciousness at. Okay, so since everything is numbers, everything is shapes here, they're able to calculate everything. And when our consciousness begins to increase past a certain rate, that the computer, it goes on to its error correcting codes, let's say. So the computer, it interprets our energy and it tries to throw tactics towards us to correct this increase in energy. This happens on a collective level and on an individual level. So I'll start with the collective, and then I'll go into what I've promised in the intro, which is to be conscious of who is on your grid line. So on a collective level, the earth has its own resonance as well. Humanity as a collective has its own resonance as well. And so if for whatever reason, humanity's consciousness and energies are increasing, guess what's going to happen? It presents itself to people as physical scenarios that seem really real. They seem so real because they're backed up by officials, and it makes headlines. So people automatically believe what they see because they've been trained this way. It starts in school. Your schooling system is not there to gear you up to get ready to be a sovereign being. It's there to gear you up to get ready to the next level of obedience, the next level of indoctrination, the next level of obeying authority. And so this is what adults do as well. It's the same thing as when you're a kid in school. You go to your teachers for guidance, you follow the rules that the school district puts into place, and you have the highest respect and act a certain way around your principal and all of these things. Same thing with adults, okay? They respect authority, they follow all the rules without question, and they go about their day going to work, doing the homework as kids, and then their jobs as adults. So it's the same thing. So if they're going to be flashing something on the news, they're going to believe it. These people then spread that message to everybody they know, texts, calls, conversations, all of this. And this just helps the chaos ripple through the collective, solidifying the timeline. And thus the Richter scale is then balanced back at a rate that the computer deems as humanity's default consciousness compliant zone. I totally just made that phrase up, but I'm simplifying it here big time, but bear with me. So do I know the exact coding for this? Absolutely not. And again, like I'm saying, this is just simplifying it. But let us think outside of the box for a moment. And there's this beautiful saying that I just read on David Icke's book. And he said, you don't need a scientific mind to understand your reality. You need a free mind. And that's what this channel is all about. This is what exiting the matrix is all about. Once you have a free mind, they can't get to you anymore. We have our own deep instincts. We have spirits. We are capable of leaving the prison mind. So it's very important that we continue to go beyond our narrow lens of perspective when it comes to how we interpret and decode our reality. We have to go beyond just our senses. And if you haven't worked on increasing your senses and abilities, psychic abilities and all of this, that's a practice you have to do as well very consistently so that we don't go back and start seeing things from that narrow lens. So while we're here navigating with society and seeing the programs, noticing the algorithms, the sporadic anomalies, glitches, and the characters and charades that the Matrix puts out for us, the number one thing I can tell you is to watch your grid lines. No, I'm not saying this in a state of paranoia. Again, we are freeing our minds, not allowing it to play tricks on us anymore. So when I say this, it's because it ultimately comes down to awareness. This is a powerful practice of mindfulness and precision, and I will show you examples of how people can be in your grid line. So here's a video I'm going to share with you guys. And this happened, I'd say, 2 weeks ago here in Costa Rica. It was us, me and my partner, just picking up some cauliflower tacos, and there was no one in sight. We were the only people there. We were actually the first people to arrive in this restaurant. We sat down waiting for our food, and within 10 minutes, 2 women came up and sat directly in the Nuja's grid line. Okay? Now take to mind, all of those buildings are closed. Nothing was open. That office she's standing in front of wasn't going to be open. I don't even know if it was open that day. Nothing was open. So the second woman in particular, the news talked to her and said, oh, what are you doing here waiting? And, you know, it was just one example. This is not a coincidence. There is no other reason. So why did this happen? There's a couple of reasons why, and this is why it's very important to start by noticing it first. So in this particular case, I can kind of like break it down to how I perceived it and what, you know, I was picking up from it. So the first woman who came, she was just pretty much an NPC, and basically the algorithm picked up our energy and needed to counterbalance it. So our energy field, okay, we need to protect it. And other people can sense our energy field. Why do you think if you walk into a room after an argument and you feel the tension in there, or you just walked in and 2 people are arguing and it's a heavy argument and you feel the tension, what's the first thing you want to do? You just kind of want to go and walk out. It's not even the type of argument where you're like, ooh, what's going on? No, it's like an intense argument where the energy is so thick and you're a little afraid and it's just inappropriate. It's that same type of energy. So if you can feel that, people can also feel beautiful, radiant energy as well. And if they're not conscious of it, guess what is? The hive mind mentality and the system. So in this particular case, I believe that her low energy was trying to balance out our high energy, which we weren't having it. And in the second case, I do believe this woman was a watcher, because we saw her the next day, and I also have this on film, of course I do. We saw her the next day just less than half a block from our home, and she was, again, very suspicious. She actually wasn't Costa Rican. She had like I would say like a Russian accent. So she was what I would call a watcher, a spy, data intel collector. So many people would have had someone sitting next to them in this way and not have even noticed anything, not have really thought much about it. But when you're aware, you notice these things, and you notice that these anomalies are not coincidences, especially when they happen back to back. And you're going to notice some of the same people around you doing the same types of behaviors for a few days, and they'll trickle in, and then you'll never see them again. And then it'll be like a new theme, a new group of characters around you that seem to be more predominantly in your life. So you have to be very aware of what's going on, people around you, especially when they're directly like aligned to you, especially when they're directly on your grid line. You want to move, you want to either send, like you can do a couple things. So you can either send your energy out You can either pull your energy in, you can move, and my favorite is I like to bust out my camera and film them. Because they're doing the same thing too. Most of the time they have their phone out. That's a typical move. Most of the time they have their phone out. That phone's able to interpret a lot. Okay, AI can interpret a lot with the device like that. It's a very powerful device, a phone. It can interpret a lot of stuff. That's how I make my living, is on a phone. So if I can have my career on a phone, if I could save every image, every video, every thought, if it can hear my voice, this device is very powerful. So when you see a person and their phone is up over their face pointing at you, you better either get your camera and do the same thing right back to them and film them. You better move. You better not just think that they're scrolling randomly, because you don't know what's actually going on behind the AI. It's a lot more intelligent than what people really give it credit for. And I'm not saying it's this like maleficent force necessarily, but it can be when it's under the wrong hands. So while you may use your phone for great reasons, other people do it for the exact opposite. That's why technology is so powerful. So just be very aware of things like this as well. These are just a few examples and some recent things that have been coming up for myself. And another thing that's been that's been testing my patience is where I live. I have there's like a full-time pool guy, full-time gardener, full-time security. And it's just there is just no shadow of a doubt at this point that it's just so obvious how this one person is always on my grid line. And I can go from this room to that room to the room in the back to my patio. I have 2 patios. I mean, they're there and they're always doing the same thing. They're always sweeping. I'm like, how much can you freaking sweep at this point? And do I think he's doing it on purpose? No, it's not him. But you have to understand that there is a hive mind that is connected to a consciousness that is maleficent. And it can sense us. If there's infrared technology that's been around forever, the computer system that's set up to go to default states, that's set up to correct self-error correcting codes and all this, it's going to sense you too, of course. You're more sentient than what you would consider computer code to be, but computer code is sentient as well. And who would put together such a matrix like this? That will come in a later video. But I have to tell you, it's not as simple or as pretty as we'd hope for it to be. It's just not. So be aware, be conscious. Don't let people loom around you. Just like be diagonally, don't let them be in your spaces. Just if it makes you feel uncomfortable. Okay? If this video resonated with you, please like my video, subscribe, share with someone that gets the message, share with someone that's awakening to the reality that we are living in a simulation and that, we can create our reality. So it's like they try to do something, they try to put us in a box, but guess what? We remember that we are able to create our reality and that we can override these systems, but it all starts with being conscious. And especially when you are going about in the matrix, it's very important to be aware. Again, it's not about being paranoid. You got to be smart. It takes practice. So initially, you got to be on top of it. And it really helps when you're with people that are also conscious as well. You guys got each other's back. So I'm so grateful for this community, and my channel's growing. And as I said in the last video, I'm going to continue to give you guys my energy because it's being reciprocated, and for that I am very grateful. So check out my description below if you're wanting to connect, maybe for a one-on-one consultation, maybe for some coaching. I definitely have those services available. I also have my course, Deprogram Your Shadow, to allow you to free your mind and do the work internally, and so that you can really then be able to be in your power and create a world where life is more harmonious rather than chaotic with these outside influences just going off left and right. So love you guys so much, and I will see you soon.